Mustang, Mach 1.
Humans have forever had a love affair with cars. More than a mere utility, something which an owner can take pride in, something that becomes embedded into our everyday lifestyle. For a child, a car is a mysterious machine prompting many questions and hours of fun. To the teenager, it affords them their first taste of freedom and represents a move into adulthood. Whilst for the rest of us, cars are not just something to enjoy, but like a home or our mobile phones, are an extension of the tools we use to live our lives. This attraction for cars is exemplified in glamorous sports, catchy adverts, and general pop culture. But is this love affair coming to a swift end? Or rather, is it changing form? With passenger vehicles emitting roughly 3 billion metric tons of CO2 per year, we cannot with a good conscience claim that the internal combustion engine is able to satisfy the needs of the world sustainably. But behind the often virtue signalling facade of these green electric vehicle campaigns, we have to ask ourselves, are electric vehicles a sustainable solution to the world's climate problem, or just another impractical half-measured fix? Let's discuss. And if you're enjoying content like this and want to see more, don't forget to click that subscribe button to let us know. Electric cars are green, efficient, and good for the planet, whilst internal combustion engine cars are not. This is what the masses have been told, but it's not quite this simple. You see, the production process for an electric vehicle actually has a high environmental footprint compared to that of a petrol or diesel car. A reason for this is because electric batteries require lots of minerals such as lithium, nickel, and cobalt. Not only is the mining process for these minerals energy intensive, but it often contaminates local waterways, soil, and can be detrimental to local biodiversity. Focusing on just the carbon dioxide, the manufacturing process to make an average electric vehicle releases around 8.8 tons of CO2, whilst the process to make a petrol car only releases 5.2 tons of CO2. Whilst this is just the manufacturing process, the full life cycle emissions of electric cars are not necessarily that clean either. You see, your electric car is only as environmentally friendly as your electric grid. And with fossil fuels often being the cheapest and most reliable form of energy generation, they are still an abundant way to produce electricity. Within the US, around 61% of electricity is generated from fossil fuels, whilst within the EU, this number is still 37%. This means that a large percentage of the electricity people use to charge their electric cars come from the burning of fossil fuels, not just renewables. Depending on this energy mix, electric vehicles can emit less emissions than internal combustion engine vehicles, but we have to challenge the notion that electric vehicles are simply more environmentally friendly because they're electric. Instead ask, where is this electricity coming from? If it's by coal, then the environmental friendliness of your electric vehicle is not as great as it seems.
No, the battery in this particular design is a T-shape right down the center and across the back seat area. Because everybody thought we killed the electric vehicle. No, we didn't. It's alive and well.
So what's charging the batteries right now? What's the source of
Well,
electricity?
here, it's coming from the building.
I mean, is it what's our mix of power?
Oh, actually, Lansing feeds the building.
What's that?
Lansing feeds power to the building. So I don't know.
They're
I bet you they're a bit of coal. Well, they're heavy on natural gas, aren't they?
right now the car's charging off of your grid.
Right. It would be charging off our grid, which is about 95% coal.
Aside from emissions, the idea of replacing the majority of internal combustion engine vehicles with electric cars does raise some questions regarding sustainability. The average electric car uses an estimated 9 kilograms of lithium within its batteries, and according to the International Energy Agency, there will be an estimated 134 million new electric vehicles on the road by 2030. This represents a demand of 1.2 billion kilograms of lithium within just the next 8 years, yet current lithium production is 100 million kilograms per annum. At these rates, there will not be enough lithium produced to satisfy the demand for electric vehicle batteries, let alone be used in any other application. Clearly, lithium production will drastically expand within this period to meet demand, but along with this comes the other environmental and ecological consequences associated with mining lithium. A similar story can be said about cobalt, which is another key component in electric vehicle batteries. According to Cobalt Blue, a cobalt development company, demand for the metal will increase by 3x by 2030 due to the projected rise in electric vehicles. But currently, around 70% of global cobalt is produced in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which has a history of documented human rights abuses in these mines, involving child labour as well as environmental damage such as deforestation, water pollution and soil erosion. This once again highlights the true cost of producing electric vehicles. Whilst extraction methods for these minerals will get more efficient over time, energy-intensive processes will always be required to satisfy the growing demand for electric vehicles. Whilst less oil will be needed to run the cars once they're produced, we are just substituting the use of one commodity for another, and outsourcing the environmental pollution from the consumer to the producer. Is this really sustainable? Whilst recycling old car batteries can potentially play an important role in sourcing many of these minerals in the future, currently this is not being done on a large enough scale to meet any demand for these metals, but this is something to keep an eye out for in the future. Many predict the scale of electric car growth in the coming years, but it is important to note that whilst the quality of electric vehicles will see a significant improvement in the future, the current generation of electric cars do not provide a practical solution for many consumers. For example, most electric cars currently have a range of between 150 to 300 miles, which in itself is not suitable for many who need to travel long distances without stopping. But even these statistics can often prove to be overambitious, especially when put in a real-life situation involving the car carrying a heavy load, travelling at higher speeds, navigating hills, and coping with cold weather, all of which can drastically lower the range of an electric vehicle. And not insignificantly either. One investigation showed that driving a Tesla Model 3 at UK motorway speeds achieved 30% less range than what the manufacturers claim, whilst other vehicles such as the Fiat 500e and the Vauxhall Corsa E had their ranges decreased by a whopping 50% when driving at motorway cruising speeds. And many manufacturers recommend keeping your batteries charged between 20 to 80% at all times and avoid charging to 100% or letting them run very low, which can cause damage to the batteries over time. But taking this into account, the real-life range of an electric vehicle is even lower. A common rebuttal for this issue is the mention of fast charging stations, which are becoming more widespread in certain often urban areas. The fastest of these chargers allow the user to charge their car battery to around 80% in just over 30 minutes. However, these fast chargers are known to damage your car batteries over time, leading to a reduced use life. There is, however, much debate as to the extent of the damage that these fast chargers can do, ranging from minimal change to pretty significant damage depending on the investigation. Because of this damage, the use life of an electric battery may be reduced, and therefore a replacement may be required sooner than expected. Not only does this result in total emissions for the vehicle being increased, as a new battery has to be produced, but new electric car batteries can cost the user anywhere between a few thousand to £10,000, although many new cars do come with some sort of warranty to help protect against this. And speaking of cost, the price of a new electric vehicle is still significantly higher than that of a petrol or diesel car, and their ownership possesses other hidden costs such as higher insurance premiums as well as elevated breakdown costs, which can be up to 3 times higher than petrol cars. Whilst the idea of electric cars are viable in more affluent nations, for the majority of emerging markets, the idea of everybody buying an electric car, despite annual wages being a fraction of their cost, is not viable. Even if this was not the case, the infrastructure in most countries around the world are still many years away from being able to support electric vehicle adoption on a large scale. Even regions such as California have had issues with their power grid, such as last summer, where people in the region were urged not to charge their electric cars at peak times due to a heat wave which was causing a strain on their energy grid. This is a sobering reminder that if electric vehicles are to become more prevalent, development of our energy infrastructure will have to keep up with actual electric vehicle adoption. It's clear that depending on the energy mix of the grid, electric cars can emit less CO2 over their lifetime compared to petrol and diesel cars. However, with current technology, many improvements need to be made to address their more practical issues. The International Energy Agency claims that 2 billion electric vehicles need to be on the road by 2050 for the world to become net zero in regards to greenhouse gases. But considering the significant more hidden environmental damage that electric vehicle production causes, producing 2 billion new vehicles doesn't sound very sustainable at all. It's likely that other technology, such as hydrogen-powered cars, will challenge the electric vehicle market share in the future, as these vehicles emit lower emissions and do not require large batteries, which can be seen as more sustainable. But no matter the type of car, at the end of the day, the question of sustainability comes down to being a consumption issue. Whilst billions are being directed into electric vehicle charging infrastructure, if proper investment were put into cheap, reliable and efficient public transport, there wouldn't be a need to have 2 billion cars on the road at all. For now, electric cars do seem to be playing a big role in the future of transport. But with this comes other often overlooked issues that we've investigated. Whilst it's easy to make predictions 30 years out and see a world with just electric cars in the future, we shouldn't underestimate what future technology holds. As author Shoshana Zuboff said, technological change defines the horizon of our material world, as it shapes the limiting conditions of what is possible and what is barely imaginable. It erodes assumptions about the nature of our reality, the pattern in which we dwell, and lays open new choices. Thank you for watching Olive Stripe Productions. If you want to see more content covering sustainability, energy, and our world, feel free to click the video on your screen now.
How long do you think it'll be before there's a solar and wind powered grid?
Oh, golly.